Hello everyone. Today we will of course fight against advanced character of our world around us, and I would like to talk today about one of my favorite historical periods in history, the Hellenistic period, that started together with the conquest of Alexander the Great. So let's say second half of the 30s of the 4th century before Christ, and lasted till 30 BC, when the last Hellenistic kingdom, the one of the last monarchy that was established by successors in Greek diadochi, so generals who divided empire after empire created by Alexander the Great after his death. So this period, it's really rare in history because we can clearly indicate the beginnings and the end of this period without any discussion. This is unique, as Hellenistic period is unique, and this period ends in the 30 BC, when Ptolemaic Egypt was finally incorporated into Roman state. That was those days in the process of transformation from republic to monarchic principate. Okay, let's start. So the book I would like to talk about is entitled The Hellenistic World, and was published within the famous series, so-called Fontana Series in the ancient history, British, published in Great Britain. This is the set of six books, 3 books dedicated to Greek subjects and 3 volumes dedicated to Roman subjects, summarizing, but with huge amount of data and relatively modern interpretations, all classical ancient history, so Greece plus Rome and surroundings. And very important from this series is that, of course, this series, these books were published in the 1980s, but one has to admit that their content is very well updated up to the newest for those days when these books were published, interpretations and the newest findings in archaeology or numismatics and other disciplines that are supporting our studies of history. So one of these books is one of these books published within this series, very well respected series, is The Hellenistic World by Frank William Walbank. Mr. Frank William Walbank lived since 1909 till 2008, so he lived for almost one entire century, and he was British classical scholar who is also famous because of his 3-volume work, historical commentary on Polybius. It means on the preserved fragments of the great history of the Greek historian from Megalopolis, Polybius, who was actually spending as a hostage his life in the Republican Rome. He lived in the 2nd century BC, and he was using his time to write great general history, in which he, let's say, explained and justified the great success of the Roman conquest, especially the conquest that happened between 3rd and 2nd century BC, when Roman Republic very much expanded its possessions, especially on the costs of Hellenistic monarchies that were entering those days, 2nd century BC, the stage of decline. It's actually true. And this book, Hellenistic World by Walbank, published in Fontana Series in Ancient History, focuses on Hellenistic period. It starts with the great but very informative summary of conquest of Alexander the Great, and later describes us each, I would say, important Hellenistic monarchy like Seleucid state, Ptolemaic state, and many other states, including some informations about Bactrian Greek kingdom in Bactria, about which we possess quite sparse information, but recently some good works about this very exotic but very interesting topic were published, but Mr. Walbank showed us these states within the context of Hellenistic period and its relation with other Hellenistic states. The characterization of Hellenistic society that was really cosmopolitan and not so well connected with local organism like polis, so city-states. Many people who wanted to make career and gain profits from their work and activity had to become servants of great lords, monarchs, or satraps of much larger political organism than polis. So very interesting chapter Mr. Walbank dedicated to sophisticated relations between polis and greater states that were larger states that were formed in Hellenistic period. Also, I really like the way how he examines the career of one political slogan that was firstly used by Antigonus I, one of the Diadochi, and this slogan was that we fight for the freedom of the Greek city-states. And of course, such experienced historian and also someone familiar with politics knew, like Mr. Walbank knew, that this was only propaganda slogan. Later, it was used and abused by many other Hellenistic rulers and monarchs to use the Greeks and their naive sense of political freedom to use them for the realization of the goals of the stronger ones, the stronger, larger states. And this always finished to the Greek polis that fell into the trap of this slogan, fighting for the Greek freedom. It always finished for the city-states quite badly. And Mr. Walbank really scrupulously shows us these examples and examines them very nicely, as real historian and educator should do. I really like also that description of the Hellenistic science and its achievements and also range of applications in this book resembles newer tendencies that we see that Hellenistic period made great achievements in many disciplines of natural and mathematical sciences, and their application into the practical issues of our life were much broader than we were thinking. Mr. Walbank still didn't have opportunity to read great book of Italian historian and mathematician Lucio Russo, Forgotten Revolution, about Hellenistic science, but despite this fact, in 1980s he represented quite new, much newer view on the Hellenistic science, and he didn't state, like many authors before him writing about it, that Hellenistic science was limited only to a narrow application within the laboratories or within the workshops that were located in the libraries that were those days like scientific institutions, working under the mecenate, under the patronate of great monarchs. Of course, he noticed that some applications were used in a much broader sense than we were thinking before, and Lucio Russo in Forgotten Revolution even extend this view and updates it. But Mr. Walbank luckily doesn't present older view on that. So, the Hellenistic world by Mr. Walbank, it's great introduction to the Hellenistic world and its history, and its great portion and it's almost a miracle, within one volume of great detailed knowledge about the one of the most interesting and turbulent periods of the human history that created actually societies within the cosmopolitic elite, which was united by Greek culture and Greek language called koine. It's very interesting because many features of this world resembles our times, and studying Hellenistic period we could learn from it, but we don't do it. We don't do it enough, in my opinion. We don't learn from this period to avoid mistakes they did, that it finished badly for them, and we still do not study it well enough to improve our quality of life and we don't study it well enough to make our future better and safer for us. Maybe it will change, maybe not. It's up to us. But from history we can and we should still learn. So such books like Hellenistic World by Frank William Walbank should be read very carefully to inspire us for looking for the solutions for our everyday problems that are only soaring recently and are not being solved. Maybe it will change, maybe not. Let's hope for the best. So, I encourage you to read this book. Bye. Have a nice evening.